And we are back. This is the Second Opinion. We're a sports medicine podcast. I'm Dr. Dokel.
I'm Dr. Glass.
What's up, DG? How are you today, buddy?
Good, buddy. Yeah, it's kind of overcast down here. I don't know. What's it like there?
Getting hot, bro. It's
Hot?
80, 88 today right now. It was like
Woo.
92 yesterday. I feel like those gray days are over here and it's just going to slowly ramp up,
Yeah.
and I'm not quite ready. I'm in a hoodie today just because it was cool out this morning.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think I need to get like a sunshade for the roof of my car because this dome is going to be cooking if I'm not wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but yeah, it's nice though. It's nice that it's getting hot. Spring football starting out here. The high school kids, the college kids are out on the field, starting to see and treat those types of spring football type injuries, neck stuff from moving around a little bit, even though they're not in helmets, and a lot of like hamstrings, a lot of like conditioning type of stuff, ankles, hammies, things like that.
yeah.
What do you keep busy with these days?
Same old. Just after taking that trip a little bit ago, I'm just trying to ramp up and get patients back in going. And we got volleyball, which we talked about last time. That's getting busy,
Yeah.
ramping that up. And then Dancing with Stars tour's ending, so they're coming back into town. And then we got to get ramped up for July, August time with the show starting again. So
Yeah.
busy times for sure.
Yeah, you excited about that?
Yeah, it's fun. It's something different. The energy's great. Obviously, what you could expect. A lot of good energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun for me because it's different than what it's totally out of my norm. I shouldn't say that because I've been doing this. This will be going on my 11th or 12th season as an independent guy with Dancing with the Stars. So it
It's a
shouldn't
long time.
be, but yeah, so dance world's kind of become my life, but it's still the energy's fun being around the entertainment side. You got the athletic side of the dance, and then you got the entertainment side of the
Right.
show. So I get to see both parts and some of the behind the scenes stuff, which I have a greater appreciation for what
Mm-hmm.
really goes into making a show like that succeed. But the athletes, the pro dancers are one thing, but what's really amazing is the celebrities coming in that never dance, especially the ones that never don't have a dance background or an entertainment background. For them to come in and do what they do, pretty amazing. So, anyways, the excitement of the show starting, you know, they're coming off the tour, so they're exhausted and want some time off, and I'm excited about it ramping up. So we'll see. But yeah, besides that, like you said, high school is you're ending the school year, and now we're getting into the summer sports and the summer football and all that. I love that part. So and right in our backyard is Santa Margarita High School. That's where my daughter goes. And Carson Palmer came in and not only won CIF, won state this year. So
Yeah.
that was pretty exciting for the program. So I'm trying to get more involved. I know a lot of people in the program. I just have kind of been on the back burner. I'd like to get more involved, not just because of the success, but because it's right in my backyard. It's minutes from my office.
Well, I'll even interject. Forget the proximity. I mean, the proximity is nice and the proximity makes it, I mean, you drive a lot anyways, but you'd be an asset to the team. Let's just be honest, like, so not only do I know that it's like a passion of yours and you'd bring that enthusiasm and probably, some extra on the side of being a parent, having played the game, having been a coach, all of it. But like from a sports med side aspect, like you have to be available for every game to maximize your impact, your stats, your opportunities in the future. And so, yeah, I hope you do have that opportunity if you can carve out the time
Yeah.
to, contribute there. They'd be lucky to have you for sure.
Yeah, a few years ago, probably about I'd say 5, 6 years ago now, uh, I got a call and I went in for an interview. They were looking for a sports medicine. I would say they were looking to revamp their whole sports med program and
Hmm.
athletic training. Not that I was going to come in and do any of that, but they were looking for basically wanting to see what else they can do to elevate their facilities and stuff. So it was a great interview with the coach and the people to be. And you know, I- they said I was a good fit and they wanted me, but they wanted basically I kind of said that I was not the right fit because what they were looking for was somebody to come in with a team of like 10 people to
Hmm.
oversee the whole thing. And I said, I would love to be that person, the director,
Yeah.
but I don't have that kind of, I'm not a physical therapist. I don't have a physical therapy facility. I can
Yeah.
do all, a lot of stuff, but so the timing wasn't right, but hopefully someday I can be a part of the team and work with alongside them.
Yeah. I mean, even just to go and be a reference for them to outsource injuries to you, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it'd be valuable for you to, I don't know, somehow get the word out to the whole team and the parents just because of your experience and how you can, our approach is different than the average chiropractic or PT approach, I think, because it's a turn to play and a prevention of injury. So, like let's continue to have contact, but on a personal level, maybe, and let's not have so much in office contact to fix things. Let's have in-office contact to make sure that the Ferrari's tuned up and not
Right.
that we change tires and, overhaul the whole engine, because you've blown a knee out or something. So
Correct.
yeah, no, I think that's exciting for you, dude. The other thing I wanted to say was, you worked at all levels as well, high school, college, professional with multiple sports as well. And in the last year, the last, 9 months, I guess, I've really been reminded about the like enthusiasm and joy of like young athletes. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
people in the league and the NFL are young too, in their early 20s or mid 20s or early 30s at the latest, right? But man, there's something to like seeing like a 13-year-old turn to a 15-year-old, turn to a 17-year-old and see that growth and development,
Yeah.
And just in like 9 months, I've seen juniors turn to seniors and seniors go to college. And it's like the improvement and the growth is pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
exciting.
an
Yeah.
appearance. Hey, come
Yeah.
here. Sorry
Yeah.
about
No,
that.
no, it's good. Hey, hey, Aura's part of the family, man.
Yeah.
Part of the
She's
flock.
very angry at squirrel outside. I'm going to go corral her while you share your thoughts on that.
Yeah. No, there is something about that. I think, we've worked at the pro levels and the higher with national teams and the pro levels, it gets to become more of a business, obviously. And with that, you lose a lot of the innocence of the love of the game. Obviously, they're doing it because they love playing, but now when there's money involved, when there's, their livelihood at stake, it just changes the feel of it, like you're saying. So I agree with you at that high school level, junior high through senior year, to see that development and things are fresh. There, it's a whole new world on a lot of aspects, right? Not only the performance side. Like I like to get a lot of like seventh, eighth graders and their parents talking about strength and conditioning early
Right.
on. So, and get their body weight movements really good, because once they enter high school, what we see nowadays, it's a lot better because the strength coaches are so much better. But back in the day, not too long ago, and some schools are still like this, the strength coach is just, a volunteer coach that doesn't really have a background in movement. So
Right.
I like to at least say, hey, in seventh and eighth grade, let's get with a trainer, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. Just get with somebody that knows form and function and start working on great body awareness and body mechanics. Get your form and function for a squat, deadlift, clean, bench press. Learn the mechanics done right with very little resistance, and you don't really even earn the right to put weights on
Right.
until you have that good form and function. And unfortunately, 90+% of the kids going in, depending on the area, I know some areas it's worked a little more where most people already have that background, but I'd say the majority of kids don't get that education prior to high school, and
Hmm.
that's then they get hurt. Plus, with the men, the boys, there's a little more ego involved, right? And
Right.
it's a time of life when they're trying to prove themselves, and you're comparing yourselves to other people. So when you're underneath a squat rack and the guy next to you is doing, you know, two plates and you're doing one plate and they're calling you out, maybe you load that two plates on or three
Yeah.
plates just because you can, but you shouldn't. And then you end up straining your back because you had terrible form. You got it up, but you're
Yeah.
bent over and you're, using your back, not your legs, so that's
Yeah.
what we see. Same thing with deadlift. I see it all the time. You know,
Yes.
guys are just rounded shoulder, back, and just pulling up, not using their legs at all. So, anyways, like you said, it's fun to work those fundamentals and see that development, and it's going to happen regardless. So,
Yeah, I think you hit on what I was trying to say, which was it feels like the impact can be much greater. It's like the beginning of a journey. So if you're off by 1 degree at the beginning of a journey, after a period of distance, you're going to be way off, right? but just a little correction here early on can kind of take you from deviating to back on. And so I just feel like the impact can be greater on just little things that are so sometimes common sense to us, like don't try to prove yourself in the gym and like end up injuring yourself, like
Yeah.
it's way easier to make micro improvements in strength and speed and agility and mobility than it is to repair something after it's injured and now you've taken a couple steps back. Now we got to, one, heal it,
Hmm.
two, get you back to where you were, and three, make sure that that tissue or that joint or that issue isn't compromised in certain movements, because it might feel good in 8 out of 10 movements, but a slant route on your right leg, bop, with the plant, maybe that is where that weakness is, And so those things then become complicated from our perspective. And it's, yeah, it's just seems a lot more impactful, and the enthusiasm's sweet too, And it's
Yeah.
like,
I love it.
it's just fun, dude. It's so fun. It's so
Well, it's
fun.
fresh, and I like to use the word innocent, right? It's
Yeah.
exciting, it's innocent. They're playing a game. They're still playing. They're not.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying. That you went away for a second, but was still in the room. So you might have heard
Yeah.
me say, when you get it's been in college and but definitely in pros and on the national, it's business at that point, and there's so
Yeah.
much more distractions on the other side of the sport that take away the fun part of it. It's
Yeah.
more of the grind, right? Whereas when they're young, there's still not the grind.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the grind. They might be tired. They might have to get up for practice, but they're not grinding yet. They're working
Nice.
hard, but they're not grinding and struggling. They're having
There's still
fun still.
innocence. The
Yeah,
breakfast
and
is still made, laundry's done. Just go to class, bro.
yeah,
Like, finish your homework, girl.
yeah.
Go have fun with your friends, like, and then it's,
Lace up those
yeah, I
shoes,
mean,
go out. Yeah. So, and it's
you start,
exciting. And they get excited over catching a ball.
yeah,
Like, and then you see that phase where now it's expected. And so when they're dropping one, they're pissed off. Whereas
yeah,
before they were just excited to catch one. They didn't care about dropping one. They were just excited about catching one.
no doubt. Yeah,
So it's
the
just fun.
stages.
Yeah. And then,
Make the
and then
team,
when you see,
become starter.
yeah.
You were saying, I'm sorry.
No, I love that phase, like you're saying. I just love being part of it and the high fives. When they accomplish a PR, even if
Yeah,
it's like, they're just benching 100 pounds, but dude,
yeah,
that's huge. Let's go. You were on the bar when you first started. Now you're at a
yeah,
100 pounds. That's your first milestone. Yeah, high five. And they're,
right.
so pumped up and, all jacked on that. That's fun, you
No, it's
know?
cool.
And
Plus
then,
seeing that there's bigger steps of improvement. Like when you're at the elite level, I'm trying to make a 1% improvement. I'm trying to improve your mobility 1%, make you feel 1%. So it's like micro improvements. But at this level, I mean, there was somebody that was like repping one plate on each side and it was difficult 9 months ago. And now he's pushing 2 plates on each side. And he was like, I like, like
yep,
feeling a little stronger. And I mentioned, I was, how it is, like you notice when somebody puts on a
yep,
pound or two, and when body
yep,
changes. And I'm like,
yep,
dude, what? Like you put on like 6 or 7 or 8 pounds, He's
yep.
like, oh yeah, like 7.5 pounds, like Bo was
Yep.
hyped about it. So
That's
no, it's
fun.
fun, dude. It's a lot of fun. So I'm excited for you. I hope you have that opportunity. And actually it's a good segue into something that I was thinking about. I'll ask you outright. I have a thought. I don't even know if it's a theory or it's definitely not something that I came up with at all, but it's based off of the NBA. So the NBA spent, as I read, like almost $400 million last year to do research on how to reduce injuries and why so many people in the league are getting injured, right? So they spent $400 million doing this research, and this happened to be one of the most injury prone years for the NBA
This year or last year?
this year. And they spent that money, to research that. So the thought would be like, hey, the injuries will go down. They're putting this money. And I don't know the exact specifics of it. I just know that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to try to figure out why people are getting injured more now than back in the day. And so the common thought that I've heard is like, well, they're not practicing as hard, or they were tougher back in the day, or load management is making them soft, or the off-season training, all these things. I think all those things can contribute. I think it's stress, dude. I think it's the athletes' nervous systems are more fried than ever before in history of athletics. So think of Michael Jordan when he went out, whatever he was doing, smoking cigars, getting drunk, playing, gambling, nobody knew. You just tuned in to watch the game. Now guys are on their phone at halftime. Now you have hundreds of thousands of people commenting about a drop or this or that. And you don't think that's in the players' minds, bro? And I just think about
Yeah.
stress and how I know stress affects injuries and how stress can cause physical pain and how stress can attack the weakest part of your body. I don't know why there isn't more discussion around what are these players' stress levels, right? Whether you measure their cortisol level or it's subjective, what's your stress level 1 to 10? And I would even say people say that they're not stressed, but on a scale of 1 to 10, not stressed should be like maybe a 5 at most. And I think most people are saying, "Oh, I'm not stressed," and they're at a 7 or 7.5. Like that's their floor when that really
Mhm.
should be your ceiling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking about that, like whether it's the NBA, the NFL, any professional sport, I think that the pressure and just the amount of eyes on people, whether it's media, whether it's family, whether it's people sliding in your DMs to try to hook up with you, whether it's all of this pressure, do you think that's leading to the injuries? Because I really am starting to think that it's not the training, it's not the PT. Do I think every person in a professional sport should have their own body work person and should be getting work daily? Yeah. But like, I really think it's their nervous system being shot is causing more injuries. Am I ridiculous in thinking that? Do you think that's a 5% thing, a majority thing? Like, give me your honest opinion because I've really been kicking that around lately.
I think there's a couple different factors. Definitely, me and you are on the same page. How much what's between your ears affects how your body. We know, your thoughts will affect your body chemistry, your physiology. I mean, that's a proven fact. Good thoughts will have a certain outcome. Bad thoughts will have a certain. When you're bombarded constantly with stressors, good stress or bad stress, it's going to affect the system. So I think you're right on board on being able to measure that. I think it's very difficult, but we would only assume because of, like you said, constant bombardment with social media and its access. Like you said, that'd be the difference from the 80s and 90s where it wasn't constant like that. It was
Hmm.
only what you read in the newspaper, or on the radio, maybe TV, but they didn't report like they used to either. So
Right.
I think you're right on that. I think there's just a lot more negativity in the world, anyways, towards things. People are trying to find things wrong with people, because it makes them feel better or whatnot. So with these athletes are under constant pressure of everything. I think one of the things I think it is being studied more. I shouldn't say I think I know it is being evaluated more. It's not being publicized, but I know the teams and the national level, the professional levels, they all have, mental health coaches, and those coaches are doing a lot. Sports psychologists are doing a lot. And the coaches that I've seen and been around and the teams I've been around are utilizing those professionals to help their players on that aspect.
Yeah.
So there is a cultural change of that, but it's nowhere close to where it needs to be right now. But I could say from the inside, and again, we don't see that. We see the strength coaches. Nobody sees the mental health coaches,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
the psychologists. They don't see that in the paper. They don't see that because again, I think the culture still is these men and women are, superheroes. They don't need that side. That's not a
Right.
part of it. But I've seen a huge change in that where it's a normal practice, almost routine, where they're meeting with these professionals to be able to get rid of some of that excess pressure. So that is
Yeah.
a good thing. I think we're a long way from it becoming more effective on a global stand, or across the playing
Across the board.
field stand, because I just think a lot of the athletes still don't want to deal with it as much as they should, right?
Yeah.
They might go visit them here or there, but they're not that going, but there's a lot more tools out there to like computer programs, phone programs that help with the mental side too. So hopefully that changes, but I think you're right on. I think there is a physiological effect to that stress.
Yeah, it's just so I know that, with the sports psychologists and the mental health that's available through therapists and advisors and stuff with the teams. My perception on that was that that was probably mostly used to improve performance, like I'm having this performance anxiety or pressure of execution, things like that. And I think that's super valuable, of course, like the way you frame something really makes a difference in your execution as a QB. Like if you're, narrow-minded and sympathetic versus wide open, seeing everything in a calm, so being able to reframe things, I think that's a huge thing. But I guess I wonder if there's like another kind of adjacent thing that's about overstimulation,
Yeah,
where it's,
they're working on that. They're trying
all right,
like a pressure cooker, right? They're trying to, you're right. Traditionally, sports sports psychology was for performance care, right?
Mhm.
Like for golf or whatever. We've had, our golf PhD on, he was
Yeah.
amazing talking about, the difference between top and the bottom and all that. So, but what I'm seeing being around it is the talk is more towards the lifestyle stuff too.
Oh, good.
So there is a change. I just don't think it's close to where it needs, but it's nice to see that is being utilized more for that. I remember during Rio Olympics, I was tasked with, and it wasn't like this big program or anything, but one of the trainers came up to me, the head trainer, and asked, "Hey, you're familiar with a lot of this energy and meditation stuff and all this. We need our athletes we need to find a way we know how good meditation is and how good it is for the body and the mind and to get the stress levels down so they don't get injured, they don't get sick, right? We were just
Hmm.
talking about, being sick last episode and getting
Right.
run down, or maybe that was this episode. But part of that is stress. Our immune system goes down. So when you're getting ready for a high competition like the Olympics or whatever, they were looking for extra ways to decrease that and increase the immune system. And one of the ways was through meditation. Well, you got these high achiever athletes that have very hard time shutting off their brains, A
Right.
personalities, very competitive. What else can you utilize? Breath work, meditation, good in theory, but how many of them will actually take the time when their mind is racing constantly? So one of the things they asked me about was other modalities that could help get you to that level. So I took a whole year almost to study different modalities that were accessible to help with brainwave and
Yeah.
meditation and what was going on with meditation. Now, if you can't, do it internally, how can you externally change the brainwave? So there were
Hmm.
a couple mind body type devices that would actually either visually or audio or both take you and work on your gamma, theta, beta
Yeah.
wavelengths, delta wavelengths to calm the system down subconsciously. And
Yeah.
so we got in one of the units that I really liked. There were a couple of Pandoras, but there was Kasana. It's and
Hmm.
you can get it on Amazon. I use it for many years until it broke, and I want to get another one, but I still recommend it. It's like $300 off Amazon, and they got a couple different models of it. But it's a really good. You put them on visual and audio, and you lay there, and it syncs up your brain with. But it's binaural beats. It's not music. It's binaural beats, and it really. But with the visual part of it, I mean, it takes your brain to a whole nother level. And they
Yeah.
have different settings for recovery, for actual competition. Anyways, worth looking into. And I think things like that for the listeners, if you don't have access to sports psychologists or whatnot, to your point, if you want to do another thing to help possibly with injury prevention, I would definitely look into stuff like that. Or free on YouTube is binaural beats. And
Yeah.
when I was in the hospital, I was playing those 24/7 in the background binaural beats from YouTube and just programming recovery and
Yeah.
just had those running in the background. So
No, it's important, man. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but our subconscious is probably 90% of our operating system and our conscious is probably 10%. And so to be able to, I don't know if reprogram is the right word, but like to be able to influence your subconscious in a positive way versus negative thoughts or negative words or negative actions is, I think, everything, and along those lines of what you were saying with the binaural beats, the sound switching from left to right and affecting your brain waves. When you say that to somebody who hasn't done the research, it might sound a little like, what are you talking about? My brain's
yeah.
already wavy. It's fine. Like I'm thinking it's good, but like, you know, a lifelong meditator can hit theta waves and you and I could meditate and never approach that. But
Hmm.
I could use like a vagus nerve stimulator or binaural beats, like you said, and almost manually get there without having the years or decades of experience of being Zen. And so to have
Right.
that ability, to have that equipment, to have that sports medicine or that technology available in 2026, it's it's almost silly if you're an athlete and not taking advantage of it. And then even if you're not an athlete, you're a a stay-at-home parent, you're a working professional, you're, in a first responder, you're just a human being in 2026, you're stressed. Like I said about overstimulation. The
Yeah.
shows you're watching are reality shows that aren't
News.
reality, that are making
Yeah.
you feel like you're less than, and things that are weird or normalized because you've seen it for years. And, it's a lot of overstimulation and not a lot of time outdoors. I think those two things are a causative factor. But to be able to manually kind of improve your nervous system it feels revolutionary. It
Yeah.
feels like it could really impact a lot of people's lives in such a serious way because, from an athletic standpoint, it's about execution and it's about, living up to expectations. But on a real world, you have plenty of patients who maybe are on the brink of a panic attack or on the brink of just giving up or on the brink of snapping at their partner or their kids. And it's like, why? Well, maybe your body chemistry is off. Maybe you're not sleeping enough. Maybe you're eating shitty food and drinking terrible things that are affecting your body chemistry and the way that you think. And, maybe you're not exercising enough. There's all these factors.
Yeah.
And it's like, no wonder people are so close to
Breaking point.
responding. Yeah, like a breaking point and responding in a way that is regretful oftentimes, reacting, I should say, instead of responding, I guess, if there's a
Yeah.
difference there. I just see it more and more. And I don't know if it's like one of those things, if you notice, if I say look for red cars, you notice more red cars, but I just see it in the parents that bring in their kids. I see it in the athletes. And it just makes me wonder what a society that is overstressed for a long period of time and then it becomes chronic stress, how that affects us as a people.
Right.
Like not only does it cause chronic disease, I think, but yeah, it just affects relationships. It affects like how you interact with people. It affects how you feel about yourself and your motivation, I think, too. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's become like not a new interest, but like I'm just like fascinated by how we can make that change. And it's not as hard as I feel like it used to be or it's made out to be?
Yeah. I think it's a renewed interest for both of us. I mean, it's stuff we've known and studied, and we're a little more in tune with it over the years. Not in tune, but more, I don't know the right word, but because of our backgrounds, we gravitate towards more of that kind of mindset. And sometimes when it's just your normal thought process, it kind of we forget about the importance of it because it's just second nature to us. And I think lately, with all the stressors in life and things in both of our lives that have gone on in the last couple of years, I think we're having to regroup and refocus. And I know personally, I have a renewed interest in figuring out as many ways as I can help with those stressors and outside avenues. When there's a lot of things out there that I have no control over, I'm going to focus on the things I can control, like
Right.
meditation and like my breath work. And if there's certain tools that can help me, like even like the Aura or the rings, the Whoops,
Yeah.
The Garmin watches, things like that can help us track our recovery and our heart rate variability and all that kind of thing. Those are those are tools that we have access to your point, that we should start utilizing more. I know for me, I'm going to start doing more of that to track some of that, not to overthink it, but just to make sure I can make the tweaks when necessary. And
Yeah.
it's like a roadmap. If I don't have a map, I might not get to my destination as fast. So, so for me, it's more of a renewed interest, and it feels good to put a little more focus on these kind of things right now, like journaling, meditation,
Yeah.
gratitude, prayer, all those good things that cost nothing to do, but you get huge returns.
You just have to be intentional about it. It's very hard to have a perfect day, but I would suggest to people to write down what your perfect day looks like, because
Yeah.
I was trying to have perfect days for months and like having pretty good days. But I'd be like, oh, I didn't take my vitamins till the end of the day, or oh, I was going to do this and I didn't read the 10 minutes a day. And then I made a list of all the things I wanted to do in a day. And I'm like, damn, that's a lot. That's like almost too much because I have work, I have a commute, I have life, I have family, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And then I clustered it. I'm like, I could like take my vitamins when I have like my tea in the morning,
Mhm.
after I get a little workout in, like when I take my dog, and then you start clustering things and you're like, oh, actually you can almost have a perfect day every day if
Yeah.
you're intentional and you kind of cluster it.
Yeah. No, I
But if
like
I
that.
freestyle it, it's a wrap. I can't freestyle it, bro. I really can't.
I don't think really anybody can. They might say they do, but Yeah, they might do it, but are they maximizing their full potential? I don't think so.
Yeah.
When you just pretty solid, but yeah,
For a day, maybe, but like consistently, like 30 for 30 in a month.
yeah,
I got to have like a list and be like, these are the 6 things I'm doing before I leave for work. These are
yeah.
the 2 things I'm doing before I leave to go home.
One thing on the reading, you mentioned reading, and I like doing that, but sometimes that gets left off, right? So
Yeah.
with our commutes, instead of listening to music, I've been trying to listen to books on tape, or not books on tape. That's dating. Man, can we edit that? Yeah,
You just dated
audio
yourself.
books or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but because there's a lot of great education, that's some of the entrepreneurial stuff I've listened to on leadership and stuff. I mean, that's what most of them do is they maximize their drive times, their commute
Yeah.
times to read or listen to books and get their still whether you're reading it, visually reading it or listening to it, you can it's the same thing. You're consuming content of
Yeah.
that will benefit you versus
Yeah.
music. Music, I like music. I like it. It puts me in a certain mindset. But sometimes the music we listen to that we like is not really the best for us, right? It's not
Sure.
necessarily talking about the things that really we should be, but they
Dude.
make us feel good because they make us feel a certain way because it brings us back to our party days or, our chasing days or whatever. And so, but is that really elevating me, right?
Yeah.
It's good. It's a dopamine hit, but is it getting me to that next level? So can I be better? You know,
Yeah.
so that's my constant mantra to myself. Be better, don't let yourself slip. Be better. As soon as I start complaining about something, be better. Just be better. Just change it. Do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think
So,
the observation of said action or thought is the key. Once you observe it and you're like, oh, I'm being this type of way, or I could be doing better, then that's your opportunity to like switch it, And I think
yeah.
it's hard to do that all the time. I give myself grace. You can't be perfect with it, but I think the intention is important. Yeah, it's interesting. It made me think of 2 different people who start their mornings differently. I'll just shorten it up. One person, she runs a little bit stressed, a little bit type A personality maybe. And I said, well, how do you start your day? And she's like, emails from the phone, like basically coffee, emails from the phone, shower. I'm like listening to music and I'm like, what do you listen to? And just like me, she listens to like some, aggressive rap, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, let's try changing that up. How about you hit the shower, like classical music if you need to listen to something, or how about nothing? How about you just think about your day? How about you just maybe hum in the shower? How about you just have some quiet time? So we switched her up in that way. And then somebody else, he's younger and is an athlete. And just the talk with him was pre-competition on game days. You don't need hype up music at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. You're frying yourself. Like
Yeah.
maybe no music, maybe
Yeah.
on the bus ride, classical. Maybe in the
Hmm.
warm-ups, light music.
Hmm.
Maybe right before you go on the field, now listen to your bangers,
Yeah.
not
Yep.
all day long. Like that's cooking you.
Yeah.
Like nobody can sustain that. And they both, I don't know, took it to heart is the right word, but they tried it and they both were like, that makes a difference, and it
Yeah.
comes down to, yeah, just being intentional about what you're listening to, what you're
Yeah.
drinking, what you're eating, what you're watching is big on me too. I've been telling parents, like moms, like stop watching Real Housewives, stop watching like this gossip TV that's normalizing weird behavior, and for the guys, like, there's, I had a guy who's just watching a lot of, I mean, all guys watch sports. A lot of people watch sports, but he also, because you can gamble, on your phone now, it like has become more of a gambling thing than a sports watching thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're kind of consuming and getting these like dopamine hits on gambling and like winning and losing, and then you lose and then you're not sleeping because look how it's affecting you. Like it's no different than, yeah. So just what you're watching and consuming, I think is a big thing, like the
Yeah.
TV that you watch. I'd rather somebody watch stand-up comedy than some reality TV show that's not reality, and
Yeah. I started doing that a lot more. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then,
Because
yeah, talking about music. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, on the TV watching the consuming part, like I like crime investigation. I like crime scene, the reality. I mean the documentary ones, and then but I was binging it for like a year because I love
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
I love the detective side and I love figuring out. But I was realizing that's just not. It's just the message. It's just constant death and crime and da da da. Even though I like it, and I like it more for the solving part because it's like the
Yeah.
diagnostic part, right?
Yeah.
But it's still I can get that same hit from something else, right? So I've made a conscious effort to really, and I'm not depriving myself of, if I want to watch one randomly, that awesome. And I actually get more out of it now, and I enjoy it more when it's random versus three a night for
Yeah.
months at a time, So to that point, but I started to, one of the things I read was in doing the comedy more, right? Intentionally watching comedy shows or
Yeah.
comedy, laughing more, trying to laugh
Mhm.
more. When you're in a state where there's not a lot of laughter or joy, then you should, at least try to hear other
Yeah.
people laugh, right? Even if you're
Yeah. Of
not
course.
feeling it, turn it on. You'll hear the background, other people laughing. Pretty soon you'll chuckle a little, you'll laugh a little. So I've been doing a
Yeah.
lot more of that. Satellite radio has great comedy, shows on radio. So been listening to those. So it's been nice, instead of music or instead of talk shows, if I want a break, I'll listen to that.
Comedy's great. Yeah. I think it's one of the better things out there just because like you said, it doesn't create like a sympathetic response. You're laughing, it's
Mhm.
relaxing you. It's good for your body chemistry, the whole nine. Getting back to not to bash on Real Housewives, but this woman was a housewife and she was just like, you just don't like that show. And I said, no, it's not really that. It's just I really objectively see how it, I've said treat it like dessert. I'm not saying don't watch your favorite show, like I probably have some shows that are, I can't think off the top of my head because I haven't watched too much TV lately. I said you wouldn't want, if it was dessert, you wouldn't be like, let me have 3 servings of dessert tonight. But I know that you watch Real Housewives of like New York and then like OC and like whatever other city, you know what I mean? Like, and like anything in excess is not good, even water. It'll
Yeah.
kill you, So like, let's just treat it maybe like dessert. If it's a treat and you enjoy it because it's entertaining and it's just, it's funny and it's not real, it's fine. But I was just saying, like, man, you're watching multiple of these episodes and multiple shows in multiple cities. And along that same token, there was some conversation about um, just some relationship stuff. I'll leave it at that. And I was just
Mhm.
saying, it's not normal to be traveling every week to another country. It's not normal to be, at some lavish dinner with all of your friends and then one of your friends is sleeping with your other friend. And like, that's none of that's normal. Even if you think it's entertainment, it kind of normalizes it if you consume it a lot, and
Yeah. We get
along that
desensitized.
it desensitizes you. That's all. That's a better word to it. And then same thing along the gambling side for that gentleman. It's like he's become desensitized to putting a few bucks here, putting it. And it's not about the few bucks because he has the money. It's
Yeah.
about you're like on the edge of your seat watching like women's WNBA game at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. You don't care about the team in Wisconsin playing the team in South Texas, but tonight you do, and then now you're going to lose sleep. And the last thing along those lines, just with sleep, I had somebody this morning say they slept terribly, went to a workout, and she was like, I was so weak. I was like, really disappointed in myself. And she started the sentence off was, I slept terribly. I went to bed, but I just kept waking up and waking up. And then on the back end of her story, it was like, and by the way, I went to go work out and I had a terrible workout. And I'm like, well, it's because you didn't sleep well that you had a terrible workout. And so that was my voice note to her was you weren't being lazy in the gym today. Your body wasn't recovered, you know?
Right.
That's a message for a high school athlete. That's a message for a pro athlete. That's a message for a college athlete. Like sleep affects your performance physically, but it affects your cognitive ability. If you took a math test off no sleep, you're going to be slower completing those questions, even if you get the same amount right. But I would say you're probably going to get more wrong and slower. And
Yeah.
so now you extrapolate that to irritability and your relationships and like us as doctors, how we interact with patients. I'm like, man, I need to be rested so I'm not missing something when I'm trying to diagnose or I'm not thinking of something post fact because I wasn't sharp. Do you think about things like that too, or am I being a dork?
No, no. I love the advice you gave to regarding the music for the player and for the girl or lady, just changing up their routine and changing up either no music or changing up, how they start their day or how they start. I thought you had a lot of good, insightful things with that, and it is constant. It's like you said, it's just a lot of. It takes away, like if you start your day heavy and hard with depending on the music or the content you're consuming, but your expectation is midday or end of the day to perform well,
Mm,
but you've had a lot of these little. It's basically like punching your arm all day long. It wears you
yeah.
out, even though if it's just a little tap, 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 tap. on the
Yeah.
background, it's tiring. Or like if there's a radio playing in the background that's just static, right?
Static.
You might have forgotten about it, but that static will wear you down, right?
Mhm.
So those excess little touches. So I like, especially with the player, you're like, hey, maybe classical, and like you had different types of music leading up to it to like this crescendo of, now it's time, let's go. Now you play
Yeah.
your bangers because you've worked that up, and now you can
Yeah.
release, versus you've released early on to maintain that all day long. You can't do it.
No.
Physiologically, it's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
you're just going to lose some of that reserve. So I liked a lot of that insight you had. I thought that was really good. I'm going to remember that for some of my patients. Good advice.
Can we make a couple notes for next time? I want to talk about somebody who has a hip issue with like a glute medius maximus tear. I have an athlete that has a shoulder issue that we recently diagnosed as an infraspinatus issue. And so I just want to talk those things out with you because I think it'd be an interesting conversation. And I know you had a patient case that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
Just
it
to
sounds like a
jog my
long
memory, what was that on?
on that. It was unlike a ischiogluteal bursitis, but there was
Okay.
some underlying old stuff with the hip, with the glute med and the hip rotators that played into it. So it'll be a good combo for with that with your case too.
Interesting. Yeah, there might be some insight that I can yield off of you.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I know you have an appointment coming up here soon, as do I, but anything I missed? Any thoughts you have?
No, I like the kind of points we've talked about. I mean, it's not always with this podcast, it's not always going to be about injuries, but it's also there's going to be a lot of things about recovery. And I think we touched about, the big ones this week were, talking about stressors and just different ways we can, recover and help with injury prevention as well. So I thought it was a good combo.
Your binaural beats was a great point. I'm glad you brought that up too, because it's like you said, it's free. It's available on YouTube. If people aren't used to it, get a pair of headphones. That's how it works better, in my opinion, because it actually switches. And you really can go into a relaxed state. And I've had people that have done it and have gotten up off the table and just been like, what is that? Like, I feel like I was floating. I've had people had emotional, like, releases, like of unknown origin to them, and I'm like, well, whatever it was, it was. I'm glad that whatever you were holding on to came out,
Yeah.
and it's like extra weight, that stuff,
Yeah.
you don't need to carry that around.
No, right on. And for the listeners, binaural beats aren't just like some guy in the background making up some music and putting some beats onto it. It's literally they've clinically proven because they know there's brain waves, right? You've seen people get measured their brain activity with different leads and stuff. They can measure different types of wave. So basically, what binaural beats from a clinical side are they're trying to target those different wavelengths to have a desired effect. So physically, they can literally take those wavelengths and put you into a meditative state, whether you know it or not. And they're not trying to like brainwash you or change anything like that. It's just depending on what frequency you want to use, relax, recover, activate,
Be alert.
kinds of different, be alert, so it's nice. And so to your point too, I've had patients really go into where they started not hallucinating, but in a dream state where they recalled things that they real lost memories, and it just opened up things. But yeah, the whole point is a 5 minute session, an hour session, 20 minute session, whatever desired effect you want. When you get off that table or off that chair, it physiologically has changed your physiology. So it's pretty cool stuff.
No, that's a great point, because it is, I don't want to simplify it, but if you really do change, I'm going to freestyle this, so correct me if I make a mistake here. If you change your thoughts, you're going to change your brain waves. It's going to change your brain chemistry. It's going to change your outlook, i.e. perspective, and probably therefore your actions, or at least how you interpret the world,
Yeah.
how you perceive the world, how you intake what's happening. And it's weird, also cool, also easy, and again, weird that it all starts by your thoughts,
Yeah.
it,
Yep.
and yeah, I mean, being around the best athletes and what they do, or the highest performers and what they do, I think one of the things that you'll say as well that they have in common is just a strong belief system, and
Hmm.
also really, really intentional observation of their thoughts and their environment. So like also who are you surrounding yourself with?
Hmm.
People that
Yeah.
believe or people that doubt.
Right.
On a side note, I read something that if there's two people, you and I are trying to do something, and you believe that I can do this and I believe that I can do this. It's not 1 + 1 is 2. It actually is like 3. So it's like almost a 3x, right? Scientifically proven. And I'm leaving out the decimal points for simplicity's
Yeah.
sake. But you and I both believe in something. It doesn't double it. It actually triples it. It
Yeah.
increases the speed of that thing accomplishing. And I thought what was interesting is one person believing and one person not believing, or one person believing and one person having doubt, or faith versus fear. Then you would think it just cancels each other out, right? No,
Mhm.
sir. You have a believer and a non-believer, or like I think I can and I don't think you can. It actually makes it 2 times harder for that person who's trying to. It's like you're doubling the weight of the backpack. So
Wow.
who is that person in your corner making you accelerate and making you get there 3 times faster, or is that person making it twice as hard because you're throwing them on your back and having to carry them while they're
Yeah.
whispering bullshit in your ear? Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. I
Yeah.
was fascinated by that because I kind of thought it was a 1-to-1, and I'm like, yo, 3x better or twice as
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
That's
That's
that makes me
interesting.
nervous.
That's good stuff. Good insight.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, it's like the power of a coach, a power of positive talk from a teammate,
Yeah.
or a friend picking up a phone and calling somebody. Like having somebody in your corner is super important. I mean, everyone knows
Vital.
that. I read that scientifically. I'm like, man, that makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Well, Dustin, I'm gonna make sure you're not late to your patients, and I have somebody that's just pulling up here about to park as well. So I'm going
Perfect.
to sign off here. But I did want to take one moment and thank our listeners. I was looking at our metrics, which I never really look at, but we've been trending up the last several months, and I don't know if that's from people sharing episodes or saving it to listen to it later, but that helps us. If
Yeah.
you like our episode and you want to just save it and download it for later, turns out that's helpful. If you subscribe, turns out that's helpful. If you share it, turns out that's helpful.
Yeah.
And turns out we appreciate it if you're helpful to us. So to everyone who's listening and submits questions, or if you know us personally, please don't hesitate to bring up something that you want us to talk about. We have a long list of subject matter for our episodes, but we're always down to audible according to our listening audience. So again, thank
For
you
sure.
guys. And
Thank you.
it gives me an excuse to chat it up with one of my best friends. And so I really
Yeah.
appreciate this time, and I appreciate you carving out time, Dustin. I know you're busy
Yeah.
and tired off a trip. So thank you.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's what we do, right, bud?
No doubt. No doubt. We'll talk later on in the week, bro. We
Yeah.
got episodes coming next week as well. I'm excited about. Yeah, we'll chat more. We'll definitely bring up those cases first thing because
Yeah.
they're important. And now that we said it, we want to execute on what we said. So we'll bring those
sure.
up for next episode.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Dude, well, happy birthday, Shayna. And dude, congratulations on some time off. And I'm glad that you're a little more recovered, and let's power through the end of this month and have a great month.
Sounds good. You too, buddy.
All right, we'll do for sure. To everyone listening, we appreciate you. I'm Dr. Dokel. This is a Second Opinion Sports Medicine podcast.
I'm Dr. Glass.
And we had a great time today talking. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back with you guys soon. Thank you. Be safe out there, guys. Good night.
Good night.